Offering my most prayerful salutations at the lotus feet of our most beloved Bhagawan on this beautiful Aradhana day when we commemorate his life, his mission, his work, and be inspired to continue the same legacy more and more. Respected elders and my dear brothers and sisters, which is the way we have always greeted people as students growing up in Prashanthi Nilayam. I was thinking of this beautiful Swami who came into my own life very early, even before I knew Swami after birth. I think my parents had already come into Swami's fold. So he was always the center of our altar. He was the center of our home. Any major decisions was always through Swami. Grew up through the Bal Vikas program in Chennai. Had the opportunity to be in his presence, performing plays, giving talks. I think some of you have heard this story, but I'll quickly narrate. I think Swami came into my life through the SSC Bal Vikas program. The first time I formally remember, had multiple interactions through plays and things like that, but first time I had the opportunity to give a talk in Swami's presence in Sundaram, it's way back in 1986. I was about 9-10 years old, and I had practiced for 10 full days and, was all prepared to give this talk. And on that day, it was told to me that, Swami will sit at the center of the chair, he will come and take a seat, and I need to get up and start speaking. And, as we all know, as adults know, how we train our children. Swami came and sat, except as soon as I got up and started speaking, he went off script because he got up and came and stood right in front of me. And he kept staring into my face for a long time, and I wanted to finish the talk, so I looked elsewhere. So I was very scared that I would forget my lines looking at Swami. So I looked elsewhere, I finished the talk, and as soon as I finished the talk, Swami looked at me and said, "How many days practice?" So I said, "Swami, 10 days practice." He said, no, it's 9 days practice. And, he pointed out when I started, there is the Shirdi Mandir in Sundaram temple at the back, where, I used to do the regular rehearsals and things like that. And so he pointed out to that. He mentioned the multiple days and the different, the teacher who helped me practice for it and all that. And this Swami, who I mentioned was the center of our altar, was becoming more and more personal through these interactions. The most amazing thing was at the end of that conversation which he had with me in English and a little bit of Tamil, Swami went and said a few things in Telugu to me at that point, and I understood no Telugu at that time. And there were people around me, but I think that conversation was so private that nobody understood what Swami said, or they didn't speak Telugu, neither I could repeat it to anybody else. Many years later, I was studying in Swami's institution, and one day I was sitting in the interview room with Swami with a group of devotees. At the back, I was sitting, and particularly if you grow up in Swami's schools, right from a very early age, he takes great pride in sort of introducing you with lots of accolades, with the hope that you will rise up to those levels. So Swami said many things, and then he said, I told him to come and join my school, and that is how he came and joined my school. This was something I clearly remember never happened, right? Because as far as I know, I took the entrance exam, I joined the primary school, and then Swami saw the doubt or the question on my face, and immediately he looked at me and said, "You remember that day you spoke in Sundaram?" This was 13, 14 years later. "I said this to you in Telugu," he said. So, which is amazing. The reason I bring that up on this Aradhana day is Swami is this personal God for each of us. And his greatest inspiration, obviously, we say, is through love, which he gave all of us. But it's also the transformation which has occurred around the world by his mere presence or presence of the Lord on this earth. But the reason I say he's a very personal God is Swami's interaction to us comes through a word in his physical presence, or through a dream, or he sends an individual who is inspired by Swami to say a few things to us. It is important for us, I think it's been said over the multiple days of this conference, for us to be watchful, for us to make sure we connect with that Swami. Because in this instance, Swami had this conversation with me, and it was in Telugu, so, out of the two people, one person didn't even remember the conversation. But Swami remembers this 13 years later and says, I told you this on that day. And this is very, very important because Swami is this personal God. When he lived amidst us in his physical form, he moved amongst us. He was this very public persona who, walked during darshans between thousands of people. But at the same time, he has a way to connect with every individual one-on-one. And that is true even today, particularly on a day when we think of him, his life, his mission. I think it is so critical for us to always firmly believe. I think it was mentioned yesterday in one of the personal experiences. Make him your personal God. If there's a spot next to you, talk to him. The more we do these physical enactments for ourselves, I think we personalize him to us even more and more. I'll also narrate a few instances as I think of Swami on this day, where his interactions with students. So there is one time, Swami had taken a group of students to Kodaikanal, and often in Kodaikanal what happens is Swami's car goes in the front and there is the bus in the back where the students and other people who are traveling with him travel. So one day what had occurred was the car was going, and suddenly Swami at one point stopped the car and decided to get into the bus. So he got into the bus, he sat with the students, and obviously it's a nice personal opportunity for everybody to have the closeness with Swami. But at the same time, I told Swami mentioned to the students, look in the front, look at the car, and all the devotees were lining up on either sides, and everybody was, folding their hand to the car, right? Hoping or believing that Swami is inside the car. And Swami said, see, I'm sitting here and everybody is bowing down to the car, right? And it raised some laughter, and obviously, after some time, Swami said, the car, by association with me, is getting all the respect, right? Everybody's bowing down to the car. And he said, I moved into the bus with you all. Nobody's even looking at the bus, right? So it was a funny instance, but the bottom line is, by our association with him, our value increases multifold. And I think it is very important for us to remember that. I think the moment we are in his mission, we are part of his organization, we are part of his legacy and mission. It's so important that we understand that raises our value, right? We don't need to go looking for, I think, just now Dr. Reddy mentioned, I think the moment we associate with Swami, I think everything comes to us. I think we have to have that firm conviction. Once we are plunged in, go out all the way. Thinking of a few more things in being in Swami's presence, I think one thing as students in Swami's presence, I think his expectations for students, I think we have several students here, and I'm sure each of us have a story to tell. But I think Swami always wanted us to be prepared for different things, right? Opportunities in life occur. Not often you get an opportunity. He might say, get up, stand up and speak. And if he says, Swami, I'm not ready, that opportunity may not come again. Stand up, chant Veda. Swami, I have not learned Veda, right? So sometimes I take this lesson very seriously in life as well, because whenever the opportunity comes, it's important to be very, very prepared. And we don't know in life when that beck and call occurs. So a personal story there. I think Swami always wanted us to give talks in his presence, not because those talks were important, but it was a way for us to interact with him during the course of the preparation of the talks, or even stand up, speak with him, and then of course you have the personal interaction and conversation with Swami. So one particular time, Swami had asked a few of us to give talks before his Dashara discourses. Swami used to give discourses on third day onwards when he used to do the Veda Purusha Jnana Saptaha Yajnam. And Swami used to have 2 students speak, and then a senior devotee speak, and then of course Swami would give his discourse after that. So in preparation for that, Swami had asked several of us to get prepared. And one particular time, Swami had told me that, I used to sing and speak. While Swami used to often make a joke about it, because he said those who are sleeping will wake up when you sing a song. So I had prepared a few songs, and the talk was also ready. Swami came up to me. I was supposed to speak on the 3rd day, and Swami came up to me and said, you speak on the 9th day, the Ayudha Puja day. There'll be a lot more crowd. So you feel very important, right? You're picked to speak on the 9th day. And I was all prepared. On the 8th day, I developed a very high fever. And I was a little bit scared because, in the sense, the talk was in Purnachandra Hall the next day. I was not sure how well I would be to stand up and speak, right? Swami said, don't worry, I went up to Swami and mentioned it. He said, don't worry, I'll send the doctor to the hostel. So he sent the doctor. I still was feeling not so great, but I was okay. Next day, he sent a car to the hostel. Preparation for this one particular talk, I felt. Anyway, got to the mandir. Swami was already in the, at that time Swami used to live in the mandir, so he was already in the Purnachandra Hall, in the green room, and as soon as I went in, he made me sit, gave me a glass of water to drink and everything. And right after that, he had told me, you finish your talk first, you're not feeling great. After that, go and rest in the hostel. The discourse is very long today, he had told me. So I went, I spoke. As soon as I finished speaking, I think Swami immediately, the student who was following me, he told him to narrate to everybody that he was sick, but Swami wanted him to speak, so he came and spoke. The reason I mention this incident is obviously the personal interaction with Swami, which I cherish even today. But above and beyond that, when we put the effort, there is so much effort Swami puts as well along the way. And I think it is important for us to remember that at the end of it, he also gives you the credit, right? He made an announcement saying he was sick, but Swami wanted him to speak, so he came and spoke. Today, when we think of the Aradhana Day, I think of two important qualities of Swami. When I looked at him in this beautiful altar, he's still in that ochre robe. I think he is in the world, but so unattached. And I think that is the way we always should live our lives as well. As human beings, we have a purpose, we have a mission to complete, on our time on this earth. But at the same time, two lessons I learned what divinity means living in his presence. One is the pursuit for perfection. Anything that Swami did, there was so much effort which goes into planning that effort, planning that whole event, right? Whether it is the Dashara event, which I mentioned, it always appears on the final day, Swami's coming up there and standing up and giving a discourse, and everything seems to run fine. The convocation dramas or the sports meet, it all appears that everything happens just like that. But Swami himself has been personally involved in many things in the back. The reason I bring that up is this conference has been really an experience of the labor of love of a lot of people. I think this was put together with so many people, suffused in love for Swami. I think that is the reason it brought everybody together. Not only in all the preparation, but all the execution in the last 4 days, we feel that love of Swami. And that is something which he truly exemplified himself, that pursuit for perfection, put all the effort, right? As human beings, we do all that we can, and at the end, dedicate whatever we do to Swami. But the second most important thing which follows this pursuit of perfection is, once the event is over, Swami would just drop it like the handkerchief. I think it was shown yesterday. Swami picks up the handkerchief and drops it, right? The instant detachment, right? The moment it is done, what next? I think it was mentioned again, keep pushing yourself to go further and further along. Not once we have seen Swami stop and enjoy one of the beautiful edifices or the institutions that he has built, but he always continues to persevere, continues to move forward. So this dual side of a coin, if you will, the pursuit of perfection followed by the instant detachment. These are qualities, verily the divine qualities, which he exemplified. Often we associate him with miracles, we associate him with all the humanitarian stuff he did, all the beautiful institutions that he built. But above everything, we should never forget he was this divinity, or he's this divinity who came and lived in this human form in our presence. And there is so much to learn from his own physical life. Like the thing I started out by saying, the simple life he led amidst all appearance of, lot of worldly splendor and grandeur. And at the same time, the physical attributes that he exemplified, the two things I mentioned, the pursuit of perfection and instant detachment, these are qualities of divine. Swami has made this comment, if I come as Vishnu with the 4 hands and, Shankha, Chakra and everything else, you're going to put me in a museum, right? If I live amongst you and show you how to live life, I think it is upon us at this point to take that and continue our lives. One time there was exhibition which was set up in the higher secondary school, and it was a science exhibition, and there were different types of scientific exhibits, but with a spiritual value. The expectation was always Swami to come and inaugurate the exhibition, go through each of the exhibits, and interact with the person who had made the exhibit. So this particular time, there were different scientific exhibits, and one happened to be a burglar alarm. So burglar alarm, the way the setup was basically you cut the infrared light. As soon as you cut the light, the alarm goes off. And so Swami comes up to this exhibit and asks, what should I do? So because different students had Swami do different things, and that way he could enjoy the exhibit and they could get the joy of seeing Swami trying it. So Swami said, what should I do? And this boy, he mentioned, Swami, you put your hand here. As soon as you put your hand, the burglar alarm will go off. So cutting off the light. And so Swami put his hand and the alarm didn't go off. So he was a little sad. So then he immediately wanted to just test it out himself. So he put his hand and it went off right away. But he wanted Swami to put his hand. So again, he asked Swami to put his hand, and Swami tried again and it didn't go off. So this happened a few times, and then at the end of it, the student was a little bit sad, and Swami looked at him and said, I am not a common thief. I am a stealer of your hearts. Right? So again, on this day, it is important that amongst all the messages and all the beautiful things he has lived and exemplified for us, he also was simple. He made us laugh, he made us love, he made us live the greatest lessons of life in very, very simple ways. There was a few years ago, at this point it's over 10 years, Swami's 12, about 14 years ago, in Swami's presence on January 1st, I had the opportunity to narrate this incident which had occurred many, many years ago. In the primary school, they had set up the solar hot water panel system, and it was the first time, hot water was being delivered through solar-powered way to the school. And as everything in Prashanthi Nilayam, and I think that was the best thing about being a student in Swami's presence. Anything and everything was suffused with Swami's love. And anything and everything you did was only to please Swami. I think there was nothing else. And life was very simple, no distractions. You live there, and sports meet, you want to get the gold medal from Swami. Whether it is the academic, convocation, you want to get the gold medal from Swami. So anything you pursue, the ultimate goal is him. So it is actually very simple life from that perspective, because not only from a spiritual goal, he's your goal, but also from a physical perspective, he's your goal. So the students had gone and requested Swami to come and inaugurate this hot water panel system. So Swami said, I will come on a particular Sunday morning, right after bhajans were done. He said, I will come. So Swami came as he had promised, and once he went up to the terrace where the solar panels were set up, Swami asked, what should I do? And there was a tap which was set up there. So as soon as Swami turns on the tap, there's already water which goes through the solar panels. It's warmed up and hot water comes out of that, right? So Swami opened the tap, and to everybody's disbelief, what ended up happening is instead of the water going down, it went all over. So basically, it went all over Swami's hair, Swami's robe, and also it was hot water, right? And everybody was stunned. Nobody knew what to do. Everybody was perplexed, or just took a step back. And Swami smiled and he said, "Not only I inaugurated, but I also took the first shower." Right? A very, obviously a very humorous incident, but at the same time, the message I take away from this is how simple Swami. Swami is always in the moment, and always keeping things light, always making everybody happy, making everybody comfortable. And again, that is a life lesson for me. In the Sai organization, we work in different environments, work for different activities. It's very important that we take away these qualities as well. Amongst our pursuit for spiritual, self-realization, it is also important that we live our life in a simple way, happy way, devoid of the, Arishad Vargas, as Dr. Reddy just mentioned. It is important that we continue to live this life the way he lived his life as well. In closure, I will just conclude with one story which is very dear to me. I've mentioned this many times, but it's always a story I try to ruminate for myself, because it is a beautiful lesson which came out of an incident which occurred where one Swami was Swami was driving from Brindavan to Prashanti Nilayam. It was one hot afternoon, and there was just the driver and Swami who was driving the car. The driver who was driving the car, and Swami was at the back. It was very hot, and it appeared that Swami had closed his eyes, so the driver was cruising along, and suddenly, as you know, those are arid parts and a lot of snakes in Puttaparthi area. So there was a snake which was crossing the road, and the driver happened to see it from far. And as soon as he saw that, he was not sure whether he should brake the car, he would disturb Swami, or if he just runs the car, he knew that he didn't have enough time, he would go over the snake. So this is how our life situations are, right? Where in a moment, we have to make decisions like this, and it is never an easy decision. And he had this quick thought saying, I don't want to disturb Swami. That is how he decided. So he continued to go forward, and he felt that he had run over the snake. He was pretty sad because he was like, I knew that it was there and I couldn't control. And so went all the way to Prashanti Nilayam. Once he got there, Swami called him because Swami is the all-knowing one, and he always drives home a message in everything as well. It's important for us to capture that. As soon as the driver went in, Swami mentioned to him, saying, I think Swami showed the marks of the car at the back of his own back, and he said, the snake is safe. So again, an incident, obviously we bring it up as Swami's love for animals. We have heard stories about deers in Vrindavan. We have heard all different types of stories. But for me, the greatest lesson from this particular incident is, it's always, like I mentioned, there are these difficult dilemmas, there are these difficult situations in life, practical life, when we go through it at work, at different places as we work in the organization. In all these, we end up in a situation where we don't know how to choose. And then what happens is, always choose Swami. That is what I wanted to mention. Any life critical decision we have to make, would Swami approve of it? Is this the way to go? The moment we choose Swami, everything else will be okay. Right? I think it is an important life lesson which we gather from these stories which Swami lived and showed. So on this beautiful Aradhana day, as we remember him, it is so important that we remember his mission, his legacy, his teachings about everything, and make our lives worthwhile, that he will stand up and say, this is my child. Thank you. Sai Ram.